Brought to you by Tales from the 20s and Mamaroneck Public Radio. Welcome, lovely listeners, to Season 3 of Tales from the 20s. It is a very comforting shock to see that we have all come so far. We bring to you a more unconventional method of storytelling, showing us a world changed by the invention of a seemingly harmless technology. Yes, an anthology within an anthology. And because we want to set up the story, this episode will be a prologue, giving us an introduction to the world you will all be entering. We hope you'll enjoy Greasepaint. Prologue.
Have you ever wanted to sample clothes, but you can't break the laws of matter to pull it through the screen? Have you ever grown tired of spending hours in the makeup chair, covering up blemishes and birthmarks? Have you ever wondered what you'd look like with dyed hair, but been too afraid of knitting? Hi, I'm Jung Aru, head engineer of Dolus Technologies, and I'm here to provide you with a solution to all of those problems and more. You may already know us from our interactive TVs that allow you to set up interactive stories within your room, and holographic pets giving your kids the opportunity to build responsibility without the losses. Well, now we have something that will take projection to the next level. On my ankle is the Anora band. With it, you'll be able to dress however you want, whenever you want, and on the go. To set it up, simply press the back button 3 times and stand against a flat surface. The band will release a burst of light and scan the shape and contours of your body on one side. It's like scanning for a retainer. We have the full 3D model of you, and now is where the fun can begin. Attach the bracelet roughly an inch or so above the talus, a bony part of your foot, and push the button until it rings blue. A series of options will project and allow you to modify your appearance. I've always wondered what it'd look like with blue hair. Stylish. Now let's see what it looks like if I make my skin more tanned. Wow, I look like I actually go outside. But that's not all. You can use this to change your hairstyle, add tattoos, facial hair, modify your eye color, or remove pimples and zits from the public eye. You can even keep this thing on continuously, modifying itself to link with any change you want. And we won't be dealing with a bunch of shapeshifters. Just slightly different looking versions of yourself. And to turn it off, all you have to do is hold down on the button until it turns red. To charge your Anora band, remove the latch and plug the jack into any outlet. In an hour or two, it'll be running at full speed. We all have the right to look our best. With the Anora band, your best is only a button push away. Stop wasting away your money paying for cosmetic surgery or pounds and pounds of makeup. The Anora band, where what you see doesn't have to be what you get. Now let's see what it looks like if I make my skin more tanned.
Want the power to alter your appearance with state-of-the-art holographic technology? Grab yourself the latest Anora band by Dolus Technologies. Try out the latest features to bring style without the cost of substance. Sample having a mohawk. Darken your skin to our diverse racial settings, or experiment with a tattoo that you don't have to keep. The Anora band, where what you see doesn't have to be what you get. Now available in cobalt blue, wedgwood green, and Anora settings.
Aurora, Colorado. Mountport Middle School. Paco, 11. 10:02 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time. Greasepaint. Chapter 1.
Welcome back from winter break, students. I hope that you all didn't forget the assignment you had. Though I guess it has been a long break. Does anyone want to start their presentations early? Maybe it'll give the rest of you time to give your papers once over. Remember, what your parents do for work is noble because they are providing for you, no matter what. So don't feel embarrassed about it when reading. Okay, Paco. You seem like you have something for us to work with. Please come up and read your report.
Thank you, Miss Ainsley. For my report, I decided to focus on what my mom does for work. And over the break, I actually got to see it in person, which gave me some great notes. Her name is Mariposa Suarez, and I don't remember much about my dad, but I know that the two separated when I was younger, so she has to take care of me pretty much on her own. Up until a few months ago, my mother used to work in a hardware store, making sure that things were where they were supposed to be, and stuff like that. She sometimes left her papers lying around, and they looked really boring and complicated. When the work my mom did was really dangerous and exciting was usually when something went wrong. She told me that a coworker got his foot crushed when a forklift backed over it. She said that the hardware store refused to cover his insurance, so she had to give him some of her paycheck that week, which really sucked because it meant she couldn't afford the ice cream we both liked. Sadly, though, the guy still got fired because he couldn't operate the machines for a month, so he had to stay at our house. I don't remember his name, but he was a nice person to talk to, and he sometimes helped me with homework when Mom had to work late. He also talked to his family a lot. Apparently they came from Honduras, and he came to the United States hoping to get a better job. He told me his dad had to work on a banana plantation and got really sick from all the pesticides they were using. It made him puke a lot, which I'm really glad I never got to see in person. And yet he still kept going to work. My mom's coworker told me that he didn't like how his father kept working for those plantation owners. This was something he repeated a lot. He'd say if you're giving your free time, your body, and your mind to something, the least they can do is give you their respect. My mom joked that this idea was why he was still on our couch after getting fired, but...
Paco, could you please stay on topic?
Okay, anyways, I think that some of what he said stuck with Mom, because it led to her looking for other jobs. Turns out that she was really good at doing the work of two people at once, and that made her seem really impressive to this guy working for some place called Potterman Cleaners, who was there shopping for some stuff to fix his porch. My mom said that they sold cleaning products like bleach and stuff, and were looking for someone to join their sales team. She didn't talk to the guy in person, but the first time he saw him, she came back home and locked herself in her room. I had to eat dinner alone that day, but she seemed to be feeling a lot better the next day. She showed up wearing a fancy suit that I only ever saw her wear for my grandma's wake, and she also bought this band that I had seen a bunch of people start using. She put it on her ankle while I was getting ready for school, and she tapped it a few times. The thing scanned her, and some kind of light went over her that made her skin look really pale. When I asked her about it, she choked on her breath, and then she said it was something called an aura band, and that she was buying it to save on some makeup. I thought the idea was overkill, since she never really needed it before. She said that she was super proud of how she was able to keep her skin free of blemishes and stuff. That first day, when I came back home while watching TV, she took the band off her ankle as soon as she stepped inside and threw it against the wall. When she did that, it made her skin go back to its normal milk chocolate brown. I don't think she knew I was there yet, because she started to cry again and never liked to do that around me.
Paco, are you sure that this is an appropriate thing to talk about in our class?
I'm just doing what the assignment said, and it's fine. Adults cry all the time.
I mean, would anyone else like to go? We wouldn't want...
I'd like to finish. I spent a lot of time on this, and I didn't sacrifice the one chance I get a year to go sledding just to be cut off.
Okay.
Thank you. So, my mom did that for a few more days, and the work she was doing got us a lot more money. On Christmas, I was able to get the Nerf gun that I'd been asking for, and we fixed the leaking pipes that had been keeping me up at night. Though she did stop talking to me about work, she said it was because the people she was with were now a lot less fun than the ones at the hardware store. Her work was also a lot more exhausting. Sometimes she would be forced to stay up late doing the same papers over and over again. One time I caught her passed out at the kitchen table, and I had helped her get dressed and make coffee that morning. I wasn't super interested in what she did for work, but then this assignment came up, and I'll admit I put it off for a bit and just started writing about what I've already said, but then I got a really good opportunity to meet my word count. It was the Wednesday of winter break. The snow was getting really heavy outside, like to the point where I started to see icicles on the windowsill of our apartment. My mom had the day off, and we decided to catch up on bonding by playing Monopoly. She got a call from some guy named Stram and said that they were about to land a huge sale of their dishwasher soap to some high-end restaurant, and the guy that was supposed to be helping them got stuck in traffic because of the snow. So she was going to have to come in. I'm honestly glad that happened, because I was having the worst luck with my dice rolls that day. So my mom threw on her suit, took her an aura band, added the plug, and that's when she realized I was going to be left home alone. She tried calling the babysitter, and he was also stuck inside because of the snow. She started to panic and dug through a bunch of old boxes in the closet until she found an older-looking version of the Inara band she already had. Mom put the band on my ankle and started to fiddle with the buttons on there. The thing scanned me, and I watched in the mirror as the thing changed my skin color to make me look a lot paler, too. We then put on our coats and started to walk to the office building. On the way there, she told me to keep the band on and under my pant leg. I asked her why, and she just told me to listen to her. And then I called her by her name because that usually would get her attention, and she told me to call her Mary when we were inside. I was starting to get super confused, but eventually we made it there. And the place where my mom worked was massive. From the ground, it must have been like 1,000,000 feet tall. Like, I probably could have seen it from space if I could actually get up there. We went inside and up the elevator and made it to this big office space that was full of empty desks and tons of papers all over the place. There was another guy that was already there on the phone, and I think this was the Stram guy that brought my mom here. He told me that I couldn't be in here and that I'd have to stay outside. But it was freezing, so my mom insisted that I stay here. So my mom put me in one of the big conference rooms with a pad and a paper. I just started doodling the various things I saw in the office while the two of them were working. I couldn't hear what Stram was saying to my mom through the thick glass of the conference room, but whenever I got bored and peeked through the curtain, I did see him get really loud and start yelling at my mom whenever she did something wrong. Usually no one yells at my mom and gets away with it, but she just seemed to swallow it and keep going. Though at one point I had to go to the bathroom, so she pulled me out and took me to the one they had across the hall. I went, and when I came back out, the band on my ankle was starting to buzz and flash with red light. I found out later that it was because my mom had forgotten to charge the band before she buried it in the closet. After the buzzing had stopped, the light changed my skin, flew out, and went back into the band. I didn't even realize until after that my face had returned to normal. Mom was busy flipping through some papers, so she didn't notice when Stram came down the hall to ask what was taking her so long. That's when he saw me. And I think he felt some kind of shock, but then he got really mad and grabbed me by the arm. He pulled me up so that he could see my face in the sunlight, and I got really scared because the guy was gritting his teeth. My mom rushed over to Stram and told him to let go of me, and then he turned back around and started yelling something at my mom about why I looked like that. And then my mom told the guy that I was adopted, and that seemed to calm him down enough to let go of me. Stram still looked disappointed, so he pulled the band off my leg and broke it in his hands. I'm not really sure what was going on, but Mom must have realized I shouldn't be there because we left after that. She didn't talk the entire rest of the trip home, and when we got home I sat down so we could continue Monopoly, but she just fell to her knees and just kept crying and crying on the sofa. We didn't talk about Stram for the rest of the week, but this morning I finally worked up the courage to ask her why she didn't tell anybody what he did. She said that Stram and a couple of his friends didn't know how to act around some people and that reporting him would just make things worse for herself and she could even get fired. It seems really unfair for her to deal with that. But her job pays more and she's got fewer hours, so she can spend more time with me, so I guess it's okay.
Thank you, Paco. That was a very thorough report. Would anyone else like to go? Okay, Nick, thank you for volunteering.
Orange, Connecticut, Palestone Village. Laura Smythe, 17. 6:41 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Greasepaint. Chapter 2.
Entry number 1. I don't know why I decided to start a journal now of all times, but I feel like enough thoughts are going through my head that if I don't put them down, I'll lose something important in the process. I'm not sure at what time I'll read this again, so in case I forget, my parents and I moved to Palestone about 3 weeks ago, and I already think that I can't wait to get as far away from here as possible. Palestone is a gated community. My parents were both bankers, and they wanted to get away from the noise of the city and move here. I'm sort of here as collateral, but at least I only have a few years of high school before I can escape. Off the bat, I already got a strange feeling from this place. When we were driving up there, I saw the gate operator and a bunch of people who were getting their mail at the front. Which, by the way, how inconvenient is it that you have to walk all the way to the front of the town to get your mail? The really strange thing, though, is that almost everyone there was African American. Okay, slow down, future me. I hope that when you're reading this, you still choose to major in social justice instead of listening to your parents and going into finance as they said. And I also hope that you're rich and rubbing it in their faces for all the constant nagging about that major not leading to stability. The weird thing is that while my parents were getting ready to pack up our lives and move us here, I checked out a couple of pamphlets so I could have a clue of what I was in for. And every single photo in every single resource I found showed white people. Almost all of them were, and yet walking into town, I did not see a single one. I want to get to the bottom of this, because right now I feel like I'm living in the goddamn Twilight Zone.
Laura, I hear talking. Are you doing that thing where you narrate what you're writing down again?
No, Dad, I'm on a phone call.
Great, well, we need to get ready. We have dinner with the Schroeders in an hour, and I don't want to give them a bad first impression.
Alright, I'll have to wait till later to update you. Entry number 2. I finally got the answer to that mystery. When we went to the Schroeders, we were welcomed in by the matriarch, Dottie, and I kept my head down. It was nice, for the most part. The weird vegetarian stuff they had wasn't half bad. Regardless, we ate in silence for a while. I didn't want to bring up the question without seeming insensitive. Dad always thought that I lived in my head way too much. It's probably why every friend I make starts running after I ask for the numbers of their parents in case I need their emergency contact, which is a totally reasonable thing to ask for when I can't get it off their own phone. But anyways, when we finished the macaroni and cauliflower, we were led out to the backyard where we started snacking on cheeses and drinking some fancy wine that they said they brought out for guests. I wasn't really sure how to phrase my question or when, but my curiosity spiked when I saw a family photo of the Schroeders which showed that all of them were white. I could understand the possibility that they were using the Anora bands to make themselves look African American, but the entire town doing it just seemed weird. So I went and asked them about it, and that seemed to spoil the mood royally. Dottie shed a small tear and said that I was right. Roughly 84% of the community was white. However, a few days ago, an African-American teenager named Rufus Wood had been killed in a hit-and-run in New Haven. The white man who committed it, Ted Lattimore, was being put on trial. And there were some rumors that the hit-and-run was intentional, since eyewitnesses saw Ted stop his car and then make a beeline for him, while Lattimore claims Rufus jumped in front of his car on purpose. Dottie, the Schroeders, and everyone else in the neighborhood were showing their support of a guilty verdict by using their Anora bands to make themselves the exact same skin tone as Rufus. They would then take pictures of themselves with various postcards and hashtag #LockUpLattimore to let people know they cared. My parents were so moved by this that the next day, they purchased their own Anora bands and did the exact same thing. I asked them how weird it would be for us to do that. If we really wanted to show support, we should have traveled to New Haven to join in the protests that were going on. But my parents, of course, just wanted to do whatever they thought would get them approval. They even bought me a band and asked me to make my skin match theirs. But I don't feel comfortable with the idea. Now my dad says he'll look like a bad parent if I leave the house without the band on. He says that I'm grounded until I decide to give in because we couldn't belong if we didn't all contribute. So I've been in here for a few hours, and then I remembered I started this journal. I don't think my dad is serious enough about this to let me die of starvation, but I do know that I'm going to be stuck in here until he gets what he wants. I swear to God, I can't wait until I get out of his reach, and I can actually bring the kind of change I want to. For now, though, I gotta think of something that'll get him to back off. Entry number 3. I've got an idea. It turns out that some of the jury members working on the trials used to be residents of Palestone. I made a couple of posters, and I think that if I hand them out to some people in town, we could organize a peaceful protest. Hopefully, the jury members will remember their old home and be moved to judge the case fairly. I'm going to print them out and show them to Dad, and maybe he'll let me out for long enough to hang some of them up and even show them to our neighbors. How's that for doing something? Entry number 4. The plan was a bust. Sure, my dad thought the idea was good enough to suspend my house arrest, but after I started knocking on doors, all I was met with was excuses. The Schroeders said that their son had lice, and they didn't want to risk spreading it during the protest, even though we just had dinner with them last night and he barely touched his overly gelled hair. Everyone else just started claiming I was putting on an act because I didn't change my skin tone. After all of those posts saying that they wanted to help, they got handed a golden opportunity to do something more meaningful that could do more than boost the number of followers they have, and they turned it down. Though maybe I just caught them at a bad time. We did just move in, and they might be worried that I'm getting ahead of myself. I mean, if these people were really willing to sacrifice their appearances just to show that they cared, then there has to be at least someone who wants to help. I was laughed at for trying to start my own advocacy group back in the city, but I don't want to let that happen again here. I can do good. I know I can. I just need to get enough people together so they can listen. On the plus side, my mom said that the act proved to the neighborhood that I cared about the trial. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough to convince them to let me back out of the house. Another family, the Hawthorns, are throwing a dinner party in a week. Apparently, those guys are like the highest ranked members of this town's supposed chain of command. There's no way my parents won't take us there to get some brownie points. I'm gonna rework the posters, maybe write an elevator pitch, and do some research on who could spread the word. There's gotta be some other kids my age who want to make a difference too. Well, I did what I said. I even started printing out stickers for people to distribute just in case. My parents knew they couldn't leave me to wreak havoc on their home, so they said that I'd be going to the party with them. However, I'd have to lie and say that they ordered me an Anora band, but they were in really high demand, so we were waiting for the opportunity to get one. We got to the party after they finally decided to stop nitpicking my outfit. And when we walked onto their massive front lawn, we saw that everyone was now wearing a Korean skin tone. My parents almost instinctively changed their Anora bands to match before we got in, and immediately ditched me to start mingling with the Hawthorns. I was feeling the same fear and uncertainty I had when I first got here, so like the last time, I tried to find Dottie. It took me nearly 15 minutes just to figure out which person was her based on facial structure alone, but eventually she spotted me and went up to say hi. We started talking a bit, though she was mostly focused on her rosé. I asked once again why everyone had changed their skin tone. This time, she told me that the Oscar nominations had just come in, and the movie Cherry Blossom Hearts had just been nominated for Best Screenwriting and Best Directing, both of which had been done by a Korean woman. This apparently had been the first time in over a decade that this had happened, so everyone had changed their skin tone in support of that. I didn't even know what to say to her. I was so shocked that I dropped the packet of stickers I was holding onto the grass. She bent down and picked them up and got an eyeful of what was on them. She smiled and let out a half-hearted laugh. When she handed them back to me, she actually looked me in the eyes and declared, "It's great to know that Rudy can rest in peace when there are people like you who are going above and beyond." I didn't even bother to correct her. I just walked off the lawn and straight out of that party. The trek back home was almost 4 miles, but I think the rest of my lower body just went on autopilot. I just wanted to get back before I did something stupid. I'll have to send an email to the principal of my high school canceling the protest. It's not gonna happen. I really wanted to think that it would, but I definitely don't anymore. Maybe I could still do it on my own. But how much good is that really going to do? My best option now is to just graduate and hope that the outside world isn't exactly like this goddamn town.
San Diego, California. Emerald Hills. Michael King, 16. 12:45 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Greasepaint, Chapter 3.
That's 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 spades, with an ace of spades too. That's 3 whole points, which means I take the round again. That's 3-0.
I told you, the cards favor whoever deals.
Or maybe you're just bad at this.
Well, you're my dad, so if I got bad luck in my DNA, what does that say about you?
It means he needs a paternity test. Cheeto, are you up for a 4th round?
Hell yeah, but I'm dealing this time. You're gonna see, it's not just superstition.
I'll get it. You boys play without me.
Hang on. Did you deal 6 cards or 7? I lost. Rooney, why is there a guy with a swastika tattoo in your living room?
Yeah? Who the hell are you?
Mr. None of your goddamn business.
Well, Mr. None of your goddamn business. As you can see here, we are in the middle of a game, so...
I don't want to be here any longer than you do. But I'm here on official business for me and my associates.
Wait, are you here with those guys that started hanging out around the playground? Why the...
Chuck, stop talking.
I'd listen to your friend. I'm just here because we are announcing an official recall of Anora bands. Anyone from the end of this block leading up to Rockwood Park has to hand over any and all bands that they have purchased to us.
Those things cost like $200.
I figure that's how much your life was worth.
Hey, let's be cool, alright? I got 2 upstairs. I'll get them. There's no need to make things worse.
You clearly don't seem to understand the kind of arrangement we have here, so I'll lay it out for you now and hope that you're not stupid enough to ignore it. I am just one of many people who now run this entire block, and our word is law. And if I see either of you mess up even once, I will personally make sure that man won't see you in your caskets. Do you follow me?
Yeah, I follow.
I want to hear it from the loudmouth.
Yeah, fine.
Okay, here you go.
Thank you for your cooperation. Have a nice day.
Yeah, that's all fine and good, but how exactly does that connect to the riot you and the rest of your block incited?
It wasn't a riot.
Protest, assembly, whatever the hell you want to call it. You said you know how it started.
I do. Look, I thought that was the last time I would see that neo-Nazi with a tattoo on his neck. But it wasn't. For the most part, he and the rest of his people didn't do anything bad. They just talked a lot. They were more like an annoying shadow than anything else, and no one bothered to piss them off any more than they already were. But Chuck, has a sense of courage like no one I've ever met, and the fear that guy had put into him faded quickly. And then one day we were walking home from school.
So would you rather fight Batman or Spider-Man?
What are you, 12? What kind of question is that?
The kind that you would give an actual answer.
Well, neither. I wouldn't stand a chance in either option.
Okay, well, how about this? You take away all the gadgets, the guns, all that junk, and it's just the two of you in an arena. Then what would you pick?
Well, then obviously Batman. With Spider-Man, I just get pinned to the floor with webs right away.
Well, some versions of Spider-Man don't have the web shooters in his body.
Okay, I still don't like my odds. I mean, wasn't there that one movie where he beat the dude up in a cage fight without a suit?
Oh yeah, that guy had some crazy looking biceps. Kind of like that guy who was in our house. You remember him?
Yeah, I remember him. He was terrifying.
No, he wasn't. Man, that guy was so goddamn funny. You know why I think they wanted to take away these?
Whoa, how do you still have one of those?
I borrowed it from a friend out in Pacific Beach. How do you think I've been keeping my skin so beautifully pimple-free? You see, I just made myself look exactly like that douche does. And I could say for certain that if he saw my face again with this on, he wouldn't bat an eye. The same thing follows for all those racist pieces of filth. And they might act like they know everything, but the only thing that separates us from them is that first look. This band gives me the power to walk in disguise. They probably won't even recognize my face since all they really care about is the color it's painted. And they don't like that we basically call out how shallow they are with us. If they hadn't taken these on the first day they showed up, I guarantee someone would have put on this setting and walked right up to them.
Yeah, I understand that, but can you take that off?
Why do I have to be afraid of something that's so easy to be protected from? With the click of a button, I got the wool over that guy's eyes so hard that he...
That he what?
Hey there, Chuck.
Dude, run.
Hey. Remember what your old man told you. We don't need things to get worse than they already are. Things are already pretty bad. Grab him.
Don't you touch me, you...
Stop struggling. You'll only make this worse. Trying to disguise yourself as one of us. I gotta feed you your own goddamn fingers. Now, I am a very forgiving man. But examples need to be made for the next time one of you degenerates tries to weasel your way through the clearly established rules.
You really think you're gonna kill me in front of the whole block and get away with it? You really are as dumb as I said.
Hey, I said I was a forgiving man. And the death penalty is rather taxing, but certainly the case for a second offense. I'm gonna put you on parole, and the best way to do that is to make sure I know who you are, even with that mask on. Lex, hold his left cheek so it faces me.
No, don't.
Stay still. This is a very delicate process, and if you don't move, you should still be able to drink soup.
Oh my god.
There you go. Oh, god damn it, I got this kid's blood on my shirt. Alright, I'm gonna go back and change. But don't you think for a second that you're off the hook, kid. The next time you look at this face, you'll remember this moment, and the fact that I chose to be merciful.
Your friend told us that he got that scar from fooling around with a straight razor.
Well, of course he had to lie. Chuck was terrified of talking out of turn after all of that. His face was bleeding pretty bad, so we took him to his house so his dad could call the hospital. I told him everything that happened. And meanwhile, Chuck was just crying and clutching his torn face, getting blood and tears all over the kitchen table. We kept alternating between cleaning his wound and cleaning up the mess he left behind until the ambulance finally showed up after a half hour and took him in. Chuck had to get stitches on his face, which was really hard to do because of the shape. He had to eat everything through a straw for the next weeks because he said he could feel everything that he sat in his mouth. It all stung on the stitches. He stopped having his usual ranting conversations because they pulled on the strings, so whenever we talked, it had to be through notes.
Well, I'm very sorry to hear that. And what about his father?
Rooney thought that those neo-Nazis had gone too far and that they needed to be dealt with. He called the cops on them, and the guy got an alibi from one of his gang friends. So Rooney started to talk with a bunch of his drinking buddies, friends from work, and other people who were sick and tired of having to deal with those bastards. They gathered up weapons, pipes, crowbars, and guns, and they made their way over to Rockwood Park. Rooney went right up to the guy who cut Chuck's face and demanded he leaves. I'm not exactly sure what happened after that, but I think the neo-Nazi threatened to shoot Rooney if he didn't leave. Another guy hit him on the hand so he dropped the gun. Another guy punched him, he got slashed. Then all hell broke loose. I can leave on my own, thanks. Please, just stop those guys from hurting us again.
Rest assured, we will do everything we can to keep your block safe. It is our job, after all.
Yeah, right.
Los Angeles, California, Hollywood. Ezra Dunn, 17, 8:57 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Greasepaint, Chapter 4.
Dad, you've been fiddling with my outfit for the past 15 minutes. It's fine.
I know, I'm just really nervous. This is your first audition for a legit role. I want you to look good.
Isn't it more in character for me to look disheveled?
This isn't like your high school's place, sweetie. You're in Hollywood. You never want to look your worst, even on purpose. Now, you went over your lines, right?
For the upteenth time. Yes. I think this is the place. The guy said it was lot 19, right?
You are correct. Oh my god, I am so proud of you. God, this takes me back to my first audition. My parents would be so glad that I got to carry on the legacy.
Dad, it's a low-budget sitcom for preteens. I don't think it's the same as their Oscar-nominated movies.
Yeah, but one day, maybe, one day, you'll be able to do more than just get nominated, but you'll take home the trophy so we can show them. What are we waiting for? Let's go in.
Excuse me, who are you two?
We're here for the audition for World War Wesley. I'm Carl Dunn. This is my daughter Ezra. Are you the casting director, Garrett Ziegler?
Yes, I am. If you would please stand on the X, we can get started. And I suppose your father can just wait by the table with me.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for choosing to audition for World War Wesley, a story of a young couple of rich yet underprepared parents with hearts of gold adopting a group of 5 orphans from various different countries. You'll be reading as Zelda Wesley, and I'll be filling in as the father, Charles Wesley. This is Kitchen Set 1, Scene 16 of pilot episode. Please read your lines clearly. Now, Zelda, you know that Fritz had worked really hard on his mouse maze project. We all saw the mouse crawl out of your pocket. Why did you take it?
I'm an animal rights activist.
Come on, Zelda, you can be honest with me.
Fine. I don't think he deserved to win. I also put a lot of work into my project.
Yeah, but if you get another trophy, I'll have to get my carpenter to build you a whole new set of walls.
But there is no reason for everyone to like it so much.
That's not the point, Zelda. You should let your brother win every now and then. Remember what we say.
A win for one Wesley is a win for them all.
Okay, that should be all we need. I'll review this recording with the director and we'll call you back.
Hey, Ezra, could you get a granola bar from the table outside? I want to talk to Garrett.
Okay, thank you for this opportunity.
Why wasn't my daughter good enough for you?
I never said that.
Oh, come on, you don't have to lie to me. I've been to more auditions than you can count, and every time someone told me that, I never got the role. So what was it? Did she come off as emotionless? Because we'll rehearse the hell out of it tonight and come back tomorrow.
Mr. Dunn, I'm the casting director, so I should get to decide who acts in this show and who doesn't. Your daughter did fine, but...
If she did fine, then she should act. She's gonna be an amazing actress, and imagine the publicity you'll receive when people see this was her first gig.
Still, my hands are tied. I can't...
Why can't you? You are the casting director. You call the shots on everything. Do I have to speak to someone higher up?
Let's not do that, sir.
Well, then give me a reason. Give me one genuine and exact reason as to why my daughter doesn't deserve this role.
We already have too many white actors.
What?
We're supposed to be creating a show with kids all over the world, and we already casted parents, and 4 of the main kids, all of them are white. I can't just ask all the white actors waiting outside to leave, but if we don't have a single minority on our roster, then we'll risk a PR nightmare. Now, Mr. Dunn, I need you to leave because I've got a lot on my plate. Otherwise, I will call security.
Hey, Dad, I don't think they have...
Come with me outside, please.
Wait, why? Hey, let go of my arm.
You remember when I got your Uranora band so you wouldn't have to spend time putting on your makeup? Okay, well now I need you to alter it to make yourself African American or Indian, something fashionable. I'm gonna do the same, then we are gonna walk back in there with new names and redo the audition.
Dad, isn't that wrong? Wouldn't we be taking the role away from someone who is an actual minority?
This is acting. Everything has to be at least a little superficial.
This isn't even about acting. I don't want people to think I'm okay with stuff like that.
Why are you being so difficult? I've done everything I can to make you a star, and all you have given me in exchange is an ungrateful attitude. Do you want to be famous? You've been telling me that ever since you could talk. Well, you won't find your face on the big screen if you don't make a few sacrifices.
I mean, yeah, but...
Hey, don't cry. You're gonna mess with the hologram. Come on, I'll even let you pick what you want to be. And you've been meaning to tan your skin more. Pale people look awful on camera.
Okay. How about we go with making me look Polynesian? You said Mom used to be half that.
Great choice, sweetie. That'll make it seem more believable. And you look just as beautiful as you did before. Now I just need to set up mine. Fantastic. Alright, now come on, before we pick someone else.
We're ready for Kiri Mahina. Please come in. Thank you for your time. If you would please stand by the X, we can get started. And I suppose your father...
We know what to do.
In that case, I'll skip all the formalities and we can get straight to the scene. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay then, here we go. Now Zelda, you know that Fritz had worked really hard on his mousemates project. We all saw the mouse crawl out of your pocket. Why did you take it?
I'm an animal rights activist.
Come on, Zelda, you can be honest with me.
Fine. I don't think he deserved to win. I also put a lot of work into my project.
Yeah, but if you get another trophy, I'll have to get my carpenter to build you a whole new set of walls.
But there was no reason for everyone to like it so much.
That's not the point, Zelda. You should let your brother win every now and then. Remember what we say.
A win for one Wesley is a win for them all.
Wow, you just read the line straight from my brain. Nice. Very, very nice.
So does that mean she got the part?
I mean, the character was written to be Indian, so we might have to tweak some stuff. Therefore, you probably won't get a clear answer in another week, give or take, but I would say so.
Oh, thank you so much. This means so much to us, doesn't it, Kiri?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Ziegler.
Okay, well, I'll leave you to do the rest of your job. Thank you again, seriously. Okay, I know we shouldn't jinx it, but I think that I spotted an ice cream parlor a few blocks away from here. We can get you pistachio, your favorite. You deserve that. Man, I am so excited and so proud of you. I gotta call my parents. Hey, don't feel bad about this. If anything, I'm sure that being on TV with that face will inspire tons of other Hawaiians your age. I mean, what did that Garrett guy say? That was the catchphrase of the whole show. A win for one Wesley is a win for them all. It's kind of like that. They'll be happy to know at least someone like them got all the way here.
Dad, could we just go home?
Okay, totally. We'll want to watch your figure anyways. You're now officially an actress, and you gotta start acting like it. Cranford, New Jersey, Union County. Salim Arif, 21. 7:19 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Greasepaint, Chapter 5.
Julia, are you sure we have to go to this?
My dad hasn't agreed to have dinner with me since I left for college. Besides, he needs to meet you before the wedding.
Fair, but why do I have to wear the band for it?
Salim, I know it's not ideal. I love you and every part of you, but my dad has a fiery hatred for Muslim Americans since 9/11, and the second he sees your face, it won't matter how good of a husband you seem.
And so what? We're the ones getting married. He should have to deal with it.
I'm sure that he will. In time, though. He's had a lot of time to live alone in his own world, and I've had to fight tooth and nail to get back in. This could destroy all of that progress, and it won't be forever. You can take the band off as soon as we get back in the car, but I want him to get to know you. I mean, talk about how you want to be a firefighter. That'll get you on his good side immediately.
But then what? Am I just supposed to let him come to the wedding and see me without the mask on?
Honey, I don't know. I'm trying to manage a lot here, and he's only going to be around for so long. I don't want him to die hating us. Please just do this for me.
All right.
Thanks. I love you.
I love you too.
Pale ivory skin tone selected. Processing.
Okay, let's do this.
Hey, Dad.
Julia, you almost look like your mother. Who's this guy?
This is Sam. He's my fiancé.
Well, it took you long enough. Come in, I got the oven on and that thing might as well be an incinerator. Pardon the O2 can. Doctor says that so my lungs won't fill with fluid. I don't know how qualified they are because I still feel awful regardless.
Do you need help with that?
I can take care of myself, young man. Grab a chair and I'll bring over dinner. Now, I know that Margaret was the chef of our family, but I tried making her signature pork chops and potatoes on my own. I think they turned out edible.
Oh wow, that's great, but I don't think I'm all that.
If you are invited to a man's home, and he takes the time to put food on your plate, you should at least have the decency to at least try it.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, the potatoes are nice. I mean, I'm a huge fan of parsley.
Oh, by the way, it turns out that Sam is working to get his CFRD, and he's already pursuing a major in fire science.
Well, how about that? Trust me, being a firefighter is a very noble job. I mean, sure, the exams are going to be a mother. There's no greater feeling in the world than putting on your equipment, getting in that truck. Once you get that on, the whole world has got to respect you.
Thanks, that's very reassuring.
Yeah, but you're going to need your protein if you want to do all that heavy lifting. Enjoy the pork chop, it'll put some muscle on you.
No, I'll only eat half of it, and I'd hate to ruin good leftovers for you.
Julia, don't tell me you're dating a vegetarian and didn't tell me. I said it ain't a problem. Go ahead.
Yeah, just one bite. Please?
See, I told you. I think I just lost my appetite.
That's too bad. Let me get your plate. Oh, God damn it. I think I'm out. These tanks seem to empty faster every day. It's eating me out of house and home. Julia, I got a couple extra somewhere in the basement. Could you be a dare and go get one for your old man?
Sure, Dad. Be back in a minute.
You know, I didn't want to say this in front of her, but you shouldn't bother with the job.
What do you mean by that?
The job is one that you kind of got to marry. And that takes a lot out of you and that you can't give to her. It's probably why Margaret divorced me. I don't even get jack for doing the work in the end because my pension only keep me a roof over my head and air in my lungs for a couple more years. God, I wish I could take it all back. No one's able to give me a single thank for being one of those first responders.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
I still have nightmares of that day. My buddies and I were just chatting and watching the news, and we got a call saying the North Tower of the World Trade Center had fallen. I was the one who had to drive the trucks. When you're in there, you usually have to turn on the siren so people know to get out of your way. But this time, there was no need. Everyone was already out of the road and staring in shock. I hadn't been there all that often, but I knew the place enough to recognize it was completely wrecked in a way you could never repair. It only got worse when the five of us had to get out of there and start getting people to safety. I must have pulled 30, maybe 50 people from under those rocks. That doesn't even account for the people that were dead before we got there. There was a haze of dust and debris hanging over everything. I couldn't fully tell you how many there were. Sometimes when I close my eyes, I still see that haze. And I imagine the dead leaving their bodies and walking back to the collapsed buildings like nothing happened. After it was over, I started finding it much harder to breathe. I couldn't run nearly as fast without feeling like my lungs were going to burst. Anytime I lifted something heavy, I would start heaving and heaving. At the ripe old age of 25, I had developed the respiratory system of an 80-year-old. The official name for it was silicosis. Apparently a lot of first responders had it. And because I couldn't lift a fire hose or carry a passed-out burn victim to save my life, I got bumped down to being a fire inspector. Eventually got so bad I couldn't even make the walks there. I had to start carrying this giant tank everywhere I went. Now I'm stuck here. My job, my marriage, my house, my health, my money, my sanity. Those Muslim bastards took all of it. And now, they're gonna take my goddamn life. They're still allowed to be here. They are mocking us, rubbing in the fact that they put us through this much pain and got away with it, when they should have been run out of the U.S. on September 12th. I made the mistake of letting them do this to me, but you're still young. You got a chance to escape it. There are other jobs to take, ones that'll keep my daughter happy. Take a dying man's advice. Find something better to do with your life.
I think Julia might need help finding your oxygen tank. I'll go check on her.
Hey, honey. What happened?
I can't keep doing this. I'm taking this thing off.
Wait, why? He was just starting to warm up to you.
Honey, you might want to enable your father, but I don't think it's worth it. I just had to eat pork for that guy. You know how serious that is?
Yeah, I understand, and I'm so glad that you are willing to compromise for me.
I don't think one night of enabling him is going to change what the guy thinks. So I'm taking this off, and I'm going back up there, and if he doesn't like it, then that is his problem. Hey, Parker!
Yeah, hey, why the hell do you look like a...
Dad, it's okay,
Honey, you might not like this now, but for the sake of our marriage, I'm saying what I feel.
What's he talking about?
My name is actually Salim Arif. I'm a Saudi Arabian and a Muslim American, and I always have been. And I'm gonna marry your daughter because we love each other.
The hell you are!
You know what I think is going on? I don't think you really hate me for what I am. I think you're a goddamn coward. You're a sad, pathetic old man that has had to live in this lonely old house and is too prideful to admit that it's his own fault and would rather take it out on somebody else. I can't change the past or whatever messed up things people are gonna say about me, but I'm not about to let you talk about me like that just because you're gonna die and no one wants to piss you off before that.
Get the hell out of my house before I tear your ass right out of your skull, you! I thought I raised my daughter better than that! You deserve to watch your husband rot from the inside out! Like Margaret had to!
I don't even know why I vouched for you.
Yeah, keep on walking. You two freaks deserve each other!
Pennsylvania, St. Mortimer Academy. Matsushima Hana, 16. 4:26 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Greasepaint, Chapter 6.
Do one of you want to explain what happened, or should I put on another pot of coffee?
I wasn't a fan of Matt's sick joke.
Already said it wasn't a joke. And my name's Matsushima.
Oh, come on. Everyone's been calling you Matt for the 2 years you've been here. Even the teachers did.
Yeah, I got tired of everyone mispronouncing it. I just thought it was easier to not bother.
Even if that's true, you should have tried harder.
That's easy for you to say, Sam.
Okay, we're getting off track here.
Sorry, Mr. Banks.
I could go into the school records and confirm myself, but let's not bother getting other people involved. Right, Matsushima?
It's Matsushima.
You know what? I'm just gonna stick with Matt. Both of you are intelligent students. Sam, you have always been a healthy debater during our seminars, and I appreciate you always trying to fight your opinions. It really helps with our school's image and integrity. And Matt, while your participation could use some work, you take great notes, and I've loved reading your essays. You both are so mature that I don't understand why you would possibly get into a fight. If you are both honest with me now, I am sure that none of this will wind up on your permanent record.
Okay, well, it's pretty cut and dry if you ask me. You had just finished your presentation of the Carlisle Indian Industrial School, and you asked us to start answering the questions. I was filling out the final essay question, minding my own business, when I saw him get up and go to the bathroom. I didn't find it strange, other than the fact that he had brought his backpack with him. Then, as I'm about to finish my essay question, you went to give me the homework packet and realized you didn't have enough paper to print them out. While you were heading to the office, Matt came back, and his skin is almost completely yellow. It looks like he drew all over his face with a highlighter. Then, when I look down and see his leg, I notice the lump of the hem of his jeans and realize he's wearing an Enora band. And you've seen him before. You know that he's just as wet as I am, and yet he thinks he can just walk into your class and no one is going to respond.
I'm golden fair. My grandma was too.
Matt, it's Sam's turn to talk, okay?
Thank you. And as I was saying, he just sits back down like he isn't being offensive to every other Chinese person in that room.
I'm Japanese.
Same difference, because he was basically giving into literally every character you could think of in regard to that demographic. Obviously, I couldn't just sit by and let that insensitive and offensive behavior slide. So I got up and I told him that he needed to take off the Enora band. And I guess he thinks I'm just not talking to him because he ignores me. By now, I'm just blown away by the audacity of this guy. I mean, I'm pretty sure I heard people weeping in the background. How dare you try to appropriate their rich culture?
Now let's not start throwing out phrases. What did you do after that?
I grab Matt by the collar of his uniform, and I pull him up to his feet. Now he has to look at me. I tell him to take off the band and apologize to the class. He says something along the lines of just trying to feel more comfortable in his own skin, which doesn't make any sense at all given that he is basically putting on a costume. And after that, I realize this guy is too stubborn to listen to reason, so I reach down and try to shut off the band myself. Matt sees this and pulls his leg away, so I try again. This time, I get my hands around his ankle, and while I'm trying to press the shutdown button, he squirms around and kicks me right in the nose.
And that was when you started to punch him?
Yes, I mean, it was a very emotionally intense moment. I might have been shocked by getting hit in the face, and it might have caused my arms to jerk forward and knock Matt off balance. That caused him to fall and bang into the desk, and after that, well, you walked in and saw the rest. But you can see that I was just doing what anyone would do for those who can't speak for themselves, right?
Well, Sam, I see that you might think striking another student was justified, but...
But what? He might as well have walked into the class wearing blackface. You can't look at that and say I'm wrong.
Well, the Enora band does have a feature to change your skin to appear red, green, yellow, gray, or any color, as well as those typical skin tones as a part of a cosplay package. He might have simply messed up the controls. Matt, is that what happened? Look, I already called your parents, so you can say this to me or them.
I had a rough night yesterday.
That's not an excuse, you...
Can you please let me finish, instead of just shouting? I am actually Japanese. My parents were born in Kyoto. My mom was born there, but my dad was born here. And while my dad doesn't always try to enforce Japanese traditions, my mom is very protective of them. They mean a lot to her, and she sometimes blames my dad for asking her to come here. She really doesn't like to see herself as an American, or speak English outside of when she has to. That night, we were having Oji-chan over for dinner, and he feels the same way as her. In fact, he almost disowned her for moving to America for what he thought was another whitewashed pig. When he showed up, I did what I was told to. I bowed, I greeted him properly, and then I started talking to my dad about whether we were serving the rice or the pork curry first. When Oji-chan heard me talking in English, he said that he wasn't going to have children speaking only English in the future, so I'd have to brush up before I read out his Kansai dialect. After I was done setting the table, I went to eat, and my mom told me to... I think it's suwatte kudasai, but I heard sawatte kudasai, and that meant please touch. So I went to give Oji-chan a handshake, and I almost gave Mom a heart attack. Her father got up and said he couldn't finish a meal in good conscience, knowing that my mother had done such a poor job of raising me. He grabbed his coat and walked out before any of us could ask him to at least eat the food she made. She later got a text from her mother saying that Oji-chan flew back to Kyoto. Well, Mom did not take it lightly. In fact, she almost broke her rule about raising her voice. But she said that she hated living here because everyone and everything just got diluted into a mush of fast food and guns. She said that she doesn't even recognize me anymore, and that maybe the fact that I don't even look Asian is a sign that I don't have the place in my family. Dad got in between us and told me to go into my room. After I shut the door, I just sat in my room and stared at the wall. And part of me thought that she was right. I don't really know what I like or what I don't like. I spent the whole night trying to figure out what makes me what I am, and I blanked out until eventually the sun came up and I had to go to school. Then I came into class today, when I saw this lesson about Native Americans having to wipe their entire culture because of industrialism. I thought that maybe that was what my mom was talking about.
and I needed to be more like her, otherwise I will never feel like I'm anything at all. I figured that I can't be connected to the culture I'm bringing to the school if I don't look the part, so I pulled out the Inara band I had in my locker and went into the bathroom. Eventually I realized I was taking too long, and that I'd get in trouble if you had seen I left without permission, so I sort of rushed through the settings and I didn't have time to look in the mirror, but I guess I botched it.
Jesus, I had no idea.
Yes, perhaps if you had talked to your counselor about this, we could have resolved this issue more quietly. But it seems like now I'll have to talk to your parents about this and they can give you their proper options.
Wait, did you just not hear all of that? If he doesn't feel comfortable in his own house, then we have to do something about that. We have our Black History Month, but what if we set up something like that for him?
If we had to dedicate a month to every culture in our school, we'd end the school year before covering half of them. Besides, it only relates to a small percentage. What I think we need to do is put all of this...
松島、喧嘩したってどういうことだ？どれぐらいの怪我なんだ？てっきり。
Excuse me, Miss Hana. I'm sorry I need you to explain this in.
No, you'll explain it to me. What did my son get involved in? I need you to tell me everything.
Your son says that he tried to change his skin tone to appear more racially Asian.
Appear more Asian? What is wrong with your Oba-san's skin color? You inherited that from her. You should be proud of it.
Maybe it is best if Matsushima and I step outside and let you talk it all over.
That is a great idea, Shijin. You two wait in the hall and I will leave once this nonsense is taken care of.
Look,
It's okay. You don't have to apologize to me. You shouldn't have to apologize to anyone.
Yeah, but I hurt Mom and just feel like the worst about myself.
When people love something, it takes up a lot of space in one's head. When I first met your mother, I would have walked across an active highway just to hold her hand. And the problem with that love is that it can turn to obsession. Your mother grew up in a very cultural place, with a family that was extremely proud of it. Unfortunately, I think she confuses that pride with certainty. And your mother is someone who wants to be very certain, but that has closed her off, and I think it's making her miserable. She has to conform to this image of what a Japanese person must be every day, and in every action she does, or she is disgracing her culture, and that extends to her family. Maybe it is why she grows to despise me, because I don't have the same passion. The way I see it, just because we left Japan, doesn't mean we have doomed our heritage. Even if we had stayed, we're still living in a world with billions of other people, all that very different from us, and they're leaking into there too. Do you remember when you got sick with chickenpox, and all we had served you for a week straight was miso soup?
Yeah.
Then, one day I was at the grocery store, and I spotted these Peruvian pepper flakes, and put some of it in your soup as a prank. You ended up loving it so much that I bought you an entire pack of them. To fight inclusion is to refuse anything outside of what you have. Your mother and your grandfather aren't always right. Just because you are part of one thing doesn't mean you have to only be that one thing for the rest of your life. You don't have to be ashamed of not looking like your parents, or not knowing the tradition your mother hammers into us perfectly. You are free to try it, but you'll have to do it in your own way, because you are not your mother. Sometimes, it's good to accept the unknown. Even if it lessens one part, I think it makes the whole better.
Mr. Banks says I should head home now. Matt, I'm sorry for trying to rip off your band.
Well, now you know. I think I'll stick with Matsushima.
Matsushima, you got it.
I'm sure your mother is going to be babbling for another 2 hours. There's a vending machine outside if you want to get some snacks.
Sure, Dad.
If we are lucky, she'll be too hoarse to talk on the way home.
Washington, District of Columbia, ANN Studios. Priyam Sharma, 57, 8:31 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Greasepaint, Chapter 7.
This debate was funded by the Commission for Presidential Debates. What you are about to see is the 2058 presidential debate between the final Democratic and Republican candidates. I will be your mediator, Whitney Crocker.
For the sake of impartiality, I have chosen all of these questions. None of them have been shared with anyone outside of this studio. Each president will get the chance to make 1-minute-long responses, followed by an open dialogue. The crowd has promised to maintain the peace. No cheers, no boos, no shouting, and no interruptions. All of this is to ensure that you and your fellow viewer can understand what both of our candidates have to say. Without further ado, let's welcome the Republican nominee Priyam Sharma and the Democratic nominee Monroe Sanford. Gentlemen, a lot of people have been looking forward to this night. Many have considered you two as polar opposites, whose elections could lead to drastically different outcomes for America. This is particularly in regards to Priyam's decision to abstain from the gray skin rule during his campaign.
My apologies, but I prefer to call gray skinning a tradition rather than a rule. I was not forced to, and there's no law saying I had to. The idea is just popular.
Might as well be a rule.
Please, let's not abandon formalities. We still have a long night ahead of us. Though perhaps we should acknowledge the elephant in the room. For the sake of context, gray skinning is a new trend that has been sweeping the nation since the Enora's band's invention. As society has grown more racially sensitive and debates over racial topics have become more and more frequent, some took on the idea that it is best to have no racial identity at all. Using the Enora band's RGB settings, they have made their skin gray. New laws have been passed permitting people the ability to omit their racial identity from government forms and legal documents. Soon after, this concept made its way into the elections. Almost 62% of new candidates began to have their race removed, even having all old photos of them altered to fit this new identity. In the most extreme cases, people have gone off the grid, assumed new identities, and bought extended battery packages, allowing them to run continuously without the need for outlet charging. One such example includes our Democratic candidate, Mr. Sanford. You claim that gray skinning is one of the most anti-racist things that a person can do. In fact, you have proposed a bill allowing parents the right to remove the racial identity of their children at birth. This was labeled by supporters as the Natal Nullification Act. On the other hand, Mr. Sharma has run his campaign in inherent opposition to the gray skinning, quote-unquote, tradition. So, I'm sure we are all wondering, Mr. Sharma, what is your reaction to this proposal? You will have 15 seconds to give an opening statement, and then Monroe will provide his counter-argument.
To put it bluntly, I find the very notion insulting. Is America really becoming any less racist by removing our racial identities entirely? I see this bill as a ploy to slowly convert people to Monroe's views. If we allow our children to grow up without the concept of who they are, how can we expect them to provide to a society in a manner that makes them happy? We are on a very slippery slope with this gray skinning tradition alone. A line must be drawn regarding this idea before we decide whether or not it should impact or dictate the lives of our children. That is my case, Miss Crocker. Plain and simple.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sharma. I move the discussion over to Monroe Sanford. You have another 15 seconds.
Since my opponent is choosing to be direct, it's only fair that I do the same. Gray skinning is not just good for politics, it's good for life in general. In our schools, we see minority students being marginalized, bullied, and told that they're worthless because of their race. That kind of notion brings resentment and hopelessness. That brings a population that isn't motivated to lift this country up. Parents cannot change the color of their skin physically. If it's going to affect them negatively, why bring that burden onto their children? I find Priyam's idea that race could define an entire being's personality absurd. You all know me, not for the place I come from or the stereotypes you could attach to me. I am known by the Democratic Party and all of you as the representative for all of all races. If you are against that, you're against the notion that all men are created equal, so try and refute that, Mr. Sharma.
All right then, we will move on to an open dialogue.
Race and racism are not the same thing. I'm Indian. My parents were born in West Bengal. Though I was born in Virginia, the native language of my household is Bengali. I was raised Hindu, as have my children. My national and religious identities are entwined together to make up who I am. In my campaign, I apply Hindu concepts of love, humility, compassion for all, and especially speaking the truth. That's why I simply can't hear that in good conscience. The truth of the matter is that hiding our heritage is not the solution to unity.
Well, that might be the case for you. It's certainly unfair to deem all of the United States the same way. Just look at what your campaign has been facing. People from all races have been shouting their disdain at you for your policies and chiefly for your choice to display your race. It is possible that you only show so much pride because you're hoping to gain sympathy. Are you using your race to guilt trip people into voting for you? What about trying to make people feel...
Mr. Sanford, let's keep the accusations to a minimum.
Right, I'm sorry. But I do believe that this has merit. Think about when 44th President Barack Obama was elected into office, and while people may have voted for him because of his policies, do you think that some would have just been as eager to vote for him if he wasn't a minority? There was no way his race didn't influence his campaign. People were able to assume he'd be more compassionate or comprehend the struggles of the lower classes because of his race. You couldn't speak against him without being branded as racist. The adversity his campaign faced emboldened voters. His race provided him with an unfair advantage, but that was half a century ago. Nowadays, we have the option to remove that kind of bias, but my opponent chooses to flaunt it, and I believe it's because he's also a minority. He's preached ideas of Hinduism in his speeches, taking on interviews that discuss his connections to Indian culture, and even put his campaign posters including Hindu imagery. He's obviously trying to make people believe that being a minority makes someone more reliable for the country, which isn't inherently true. Clearly, others have felt just as displeased with his attempt to manipulate voters. Last month, a man hurled a brick at my opponent during one of his rallies, called him a slur, and told him to put a band on. He was expressing the feeling of one of many who were against him.
I did not expect you, of all people, to use a hate crime to justify doing something you deem anti-racist.
I don't approve of that, but it does show that race is affecting politics negatively.
How is grayskinning any better? It alienates those that are proud of who they are. It calls them racist for having a race. Honestly, though, that act of hatred only made my views stronger. Most would have been insulted by someone calling them slurs, but I felt alive. Because it reminded me that I am a person and no one can take that away from me. That's the most valuable thing a human can have. Nowadays, we change our faces and names as often as we change clothes. In a couple more years, we might even become so homogenized that there's no such thing as cultural, linguistic, or even national pride. The entire reason for the diversity of our elected officials is that we all have different views. We ought to be proud of those differences, embrace them, and be fascinated by the correlations and even the contradictions. The world has a history. Whether it's idealized good or dark, it shouldn't be treated like a disease. Actually, I think that grayskinning might show a sign of my opponent's insecurity at that fact.
Oh, really? This should be rich.
Hey, we aren't here to start getting into personal arguments.
In this case, I disagree. Right now, I don't even feel like I'm speaking to a human being. Because of your actions, you have no identity beyond this campaign. One can only wonder why you would do that.
Mr. Sharma, this is utterly...
No, you got the chance to criticize my career. Now it's my turn. Your campaign has been held up by every other Democratic candidate dropping out and supporting you. Yet I'm not entirely sure what you plan to express, if anything, at all. Your backers contradict each other, yet you praise them for supporting you regardless. Your one constant is your inconsistency. It's easier to call you a mirror rather than a candidate. Who knows what you'll do in office, if anything? And why is that? If you truly wish to oppose racial discrimination, you would show direct action and execute it. But doing any of those things could reveal your real identity. I mean...
I have a right to do this.
Don't you think Americans have a right to know who they vote for?
Well, of course.
Then you ought to take off your Anora band.
Excuse me?
You heard me. Because the only way I could think that someone would purposefully hide their race is if they are worried it affect their campaign negatively. Maybe you're just scared that people won't want to vote for another white guy.
Mr. Sharma, you have no jurisdiction over whether Mr. Sanford reveals his race. Let's move on from this issue.
Why? Is it the idea that his entire campaign would fall apart if people knew his race? Why would we construct a system for our country on something so fragile? I will not stand for that.
Mr. Sharma, please get back to your stand. You're throwing away your campaign. Step away from Mr. Sanford.
If you think that your supporters can vote for someone without race being a factor, then knowing your race shouldn't matter to them, unless your mantra is a lie. So do it.
I don't know what you're trying to prove, but if this is the kind of example you want to set for yourself, then fine. But it's not an example that I, nor the American voter, should tolerate. I am leaving this debate with my dignity.
Well, that was certainly one of the more upsetting debates in United States history. We apologize if any of you may have felt offended by that. It's been 3 months since the 2058 presidential election. That specific debate caused Sharma's supporters to go down by 34%, and Monroe Sanford wound up winning the election in a landslide. While in office, he has chosen to remain gray-skinned. However, one anonymous source claims his Anora band glitched in a rainstorm, revealing he was Caucasian. Mr. Sanford has refused to comment on this, suggesting the band had misprojected, and added, "This is exactly the kind of controversy I am trying to keep out of the White House." He says he plans to get the Natal Nullification Act passed in March, and even proposed the concept of a gray skin mandate for all members of Congress, though he has also refused to comment on anything other than gray skinning. Voters are eager to see what the president will target next. Until tomorrow, this has been ANN.